Hello, how's it going? Lovely to see you again. And today we'll be jumping into a behind the scenes look of that coffee B-roll Dalgona sequence you just saw. But before we do that, let's reverse a little bit back to where this whole idea started from. So yeah, as you know, I've been getting into like a lot of drinks, photography, and like drink commercials and stuff. And I kind of wanted to try something that I haven't done in a while or that's completely new. So I wanted to ask you to give me some sort of like drink, something that you're interested in, something that you like, and then I'll make a commercial for that drink.
Yeah, back when lockdown wasn't so draining, everyone was making like candy strawberries and Dalgona coffee, so maybe Dalgona coffee since that was trending.
Okay, we're heading to the kitchen.
It's like as if you knew I was gonna ask for a Dalgona coffee.
Coincidence, this was just here.
Okay, so according to this website, the first step is to combine instant coffee, sugar, and hot water.
It looks like a ball. I went into this super chilled out, super experimental, so I didn't really have a specific shot list that I wanted to follow like I would if I was shooting for a client. Instead, I literally just sat on the couch and started noting down some shot ideas on my notes app on the iPhone. So my plan was to do two different shoots. The first one would be doing all the shots that I had listed out on my phone, and then I would go and edit the whole video together. And then that way I'd be able to see what shots I needed or what shots I needed to improve on, or just like what shots I wanted to add into the video. And then go back and do a second shoot some other day, a couple days after, just to finish off the video. Also, because I was filming alone, I knew there wouldn't be much or any camera movement at all. So that's just something to keep in mind when thinking of the style of shots that I wanted to go for. One thing you sacrifice by not having camera movement is kinetic energy. In aesthetic theory, how good something looks or how beautiful something is can be partially measured by the amount of energy that subject has on screen. And one way to generate this energy is to move the camera. So because of this, I would be obviously sacrificing some energy through camera movement, which I would normally like to include in these type of videos. But instead of that, I would be moving the objects on the screen a lot more, kind of like having things flying through the screen or like things spinning or floating, just to like try to generate that energy again and keep it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So speaking of floating, shot number one. I wanted to start off with something really cool, just to grab people's attention from the very start of the video. So to start it off, I placed the instant coffee container on top of a Lazy Susan, and then I mounted it on a pepper grinder, just to make it that little bit higher off the counter. I recorded the instant coffee container spinning around, and then also got a clean shot of the background, so I could go into post and mask out the Lazy Susan and the pepper grinder, so all you're left with is a spinning instant coffee container in midair. One very important thing to remember is to manually set your white balance, because if you don't, the moment you take away the Lazy Susan with the instant coffee, the white balance is going to shift and you're not going to be able to mask out the background without it being noticeable. It's always nice to have one or two moments in your video of creativity, something out of the ordinary, and something just to make your audience say wow, like having that wow factor within the video. It doesn't always have to be at the beginning either. I just chose to place it at the start just to grab people's attention from the very off. So shot number two, this was just a continuation of the first shot. As I mentioned before, I was shooting this ad alone, so no camera movement and therefore less energy. But one way to add energy back in is to create the illusion of movement by cutting. So shot number two is basically the exact same as shot number one, just with the camera placed slightly closer to the action. This cut just makes it seem like the camera has moved closer, and therefore the audience feels like they've moved closer to the action too. And because we're cutting on the movement as the instant coffee container is rotating, the cut is clean and flows really smoothly. Also, we close in on the word Italian, and when you see Italian and coffee go together, I think it just gives that prestigious feel to it, just because everyone kind of knows that coffee in Italy is a good mixture. Italian coffee is renowned, so focusing in on the word Italian definitely makes the coffee feel that little bit more prestigious, even if it is instant coffee. Alright, shot number three. So I mentioned in a previous video that I took inspiration from Daniel Schiffer. So this is the exact same, but you know what, let's go through it anyways. I set up the camera with a top-down setup, and the idea is to just throw the instant coffee container up towards the camera, so at the very top it reaches the point where it's just in focus, and we slow it down, and then it falls back down. I originally wanted to throw it up and pull my hand away and just let the container fall onto the counter, which is similar to what I did in the previous coffee video, but I was worried about the container breaking and the counter breaking too, so I knew I would have to throw it up and then catch the container again. But the only problem with this is that it meant my hand and arm would be in the frame. It took me 5 or 6 tries to get it right, but eventually I did get it. And then I brought it into Premiere where I masked out my arm and my hand, so it looked like the container was just flying up and flying down on its own. Shot number 4. This is, again, a continuation shot of the previous shot. Because in the previous shot, the instant coffee container was going down, it makes sense for it to continue going down and finish the movement in the next shot. I also like having the instant coffee spill out of the container, again, making this shot a little bit more dynamic and bringing some energy back into the shot. I got really lucky with this shot because the way the instant coffee container rattled as it hit the floor, it kind of went to the right and then back to the left again. There's no way I could have done it, and even if I did probably like 100 tries after that, I probably couldn't have repeated the same thing. I just think it looks really nice going from right back to left, and it's almost like perfectly centered when it goes back to the left, which is really cool. Shot number 5 and 6. They go really nicely together. Shot number 5 is just a closer up version of shot number 6. It's almost kind of like teasing the audience. They know what it is. They already know it's instant coffee pouring down somewhere, but they don't know where it's going to be pouring. And the moment you pull back and cut to the wider shot, you know that you're putting it into a mixing bowl, which kind of just gives the impression that we're starting to put together some sort of recipe. This is then a great setup for the next couple of shots because we're basically just going to be adding more ingredients into the mixing bowl, and the audience starts to understand what the recipe is and starts to kind of like piece together the story of the drink that we're creating. I mean, obviously the title of the video is Dalgona Coffee, so they're gonna know that we're creating Dalgona Coffee, but say they saw this without any context, this would definitely be helpful for them to start to understand that we're creating a drink that requires all these ingredients to create. The next 4 shots are just 4 quick cuts, and it's just a quick and dynamic way of showing the ingredients that are used to create this Dalgona coffee. So for the sugar part, I tried something completely different, something creative and something super ambitious, but that ended up looking really weird and completely not what I thought it would look like, so I scrapped the idea and just moved on with filming. The next 2 shots are actually just one long shot. I just cut the middle part out. I ended up whisking and filming for about 4 minutes straight just because when you make Dalgona coffee with an electric whisk, you have to whisk it for like 4 or 5 minutes. So I just cut from the beginning of the process to the end of the process, but I tried to keep the bowl in the same place so I could do like a jump cut, and therefore the audience would kind of get the impression of the transformation that like all your ingredients go through, and then it goes from like just ingredients to a nice fluffy cloud texture kind of thing. I was mainly thinking of sound design for this next shot. Having something to show that the whisk is slowly turning off definitely helps the sound design and gives a motivation for the sound to slowly turn off too and make the whole video flow as well. And this last sequence is just to tie everything together. I really liked having the milk pour into the cup from above the camera so you don't actually see where the milk is coming from, what kind of milk it is, or like who's pouring the milk. It just kind of gives it that universal look to it, because if you show the brand of the milk, you immediately take your attention away from the actual drink and you focus on the brand of milk, or like the carton of milk that is being poured. Also, throughout this entire video, I tried to have a theme of the Dalgona coffee sort of making itself. It wasn't 100% successful, as you could see me in a couple shots. You could see my hand in like the pouring of the kettle shot, and I think I was in the background in one of the shots too, but it's not too noticeable. So just to keep that theme going, I didn't want to show the carton of milk or the hand that was pouring it, just having the milk fall into the cup by itself, kind of like an automatic Dalgona coffee making machine. And also, in my opinion, it also added some flair, especially when it slowed down to 30% speed, with the milk pouring into the cup gradually and then speed ramped up to fill up the entire cup. And lastly, I did want to show the name Dalgona, so when I pulled away the cup on the final shot, I masked in the title, which basically just said Dalgona, and that's how we ended it.
Wow! I'm genuinely impressed. That's amazing. I was looking for, how do I say, like a not too out of reach because you can make it at home, but also entertaining because it was popular during quarantine. And I think you achieved that kind of atmosphere.
Cool, thank you.
Dalgona.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Also, check out Kalin's channel. It'll be in the description below. She does some really cool videos. Do you want to explain what your channel's all about?
My channel is kind of all over the place, but I focus on cultural differences, my lifestyle in Singapore, some film production stuff because I do some professional film work. And yeah, anyone can enjoy. I have English subtitles in most of my videos, so check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. Links in the description. And as always, I'll see you guys next week.